Hi everyone, Sean here for the WorldCupNow.com, your coverage for Game Week 8 in the Barclays Fantasy Premier League. Some topics that I'm going to go over this week are captain options, some differential players that are cheap that are potentially going to be able to get you some points, separate yourself in some mini leagues. I'm also going to go through the standings in our league. I haven't done that in a while, so I figured I'd check in on that. And then also the fixture list. It's fairly simple, but I'm just going to run through it with you guys, so we'll go from there. So, hopefully you've enjoyed this past 2 weeks for the international break for the World Cup qualifiers. I know I have, and hopefully you are cheering for your host team or your home team, and or you could be just like me and cheering for the guys that are on your fantasy team, hoping that they score, get confidence, and use that coming into this game week. So, let's jump over and we'll get into it. Okay, so we're just over here at the fantasypremierleague.com website today or this evening or whenever you watch this video. Just going to kind of work from right to left, a little backwards, kind of get the flow of things and how things are going and why I did that. As I pointed out, it's always good to see who has players selected, because in that way, if you have players who don't have a very high ownership percentage, that's when you're going to jump people. So I'm just going to kind of point out, like, if you look at these price increases, and this is going to tie into the previous wildcard videos that I've had and how I've showed you to really increase your point total for your team. This is where it comes into play. International week, there's a lot of increases. Surprisingly, it wasn't as high as the other one, but if you look at it, you've got Remy with 2, Jay, I'm just calling him Jay because I don't want to butcher his pronunciation, Jay on United, Barkley, Oscar, Ramsey, and Lukaku with 3. So that's a pretty big point total if you can, manage to get those guys on your team. Now, the most important part about this whole little setup here is the selected portion, the amount of people who have them on their team. If you look at, Jay from United, only 4.6. He really broke out last week. He's kind of a bandwagon. I've jumped on it because this season cheap midfielders have been rewarding people who have jumped onto the bandwagon early. So I'm going to try that. If it works out, it doesn't. If it does work out, then that's great. If it doesn't, I have Moses on the bench, so that's not really a bad guy to bring up off the bench. Secondly, you look at Remy at 6.8, and then you got a whole bunch of 36, 20s, and then you get down to MFO. I'm just not even going to try. I'm just going to call him Fatano. Anyways, pardon. It's a little rude, but I'd rather not butcher it than actually say it properly. But he's got 4.4%. He's got, I believe that's 29 points. Let's go back up. Yeah, 29 points. Keep going down. Gibbs 2.8 at 18 points. There was another one that I saw here earlier that I wanted to point out. Well, I guess that's it. But again, those are going to be the guys that are going to get you points that the other people or other managers in your league don't have. So you'll be able to jump them. So it's going to be pretty good if you can get some of those on your team. I've got 2 of them, and we'll see how it goes. So moving into the fixtures, it's all pretty straightforward. Liverpool, Newcastle. I mean, if you remember last year, I think it was 6-0 that the scoreline was. So that'll lead into some captain choices that I'll have. Same with the second match with Arsenal and Norwich. Norwich aren't doing too well. And Arsenal, they're looking to be coming back to health. They're going to have Cazorla come back, Walcott in a couple of weeks. I think that's, yeah. So good things are happening at Arsenal. Chelsea, Cardiff, fairly straightforward. Cardiff isn't a pushover team. Cardiff and Hull out of the promoted teams are doing the best, obviously, but will be their first meeting against Chelsea, so it'll be a good game for them, or a good test, especially since Chelsea's at home. You can expect some points there. Everton and Hull. I think Hull will probably play very defensive, but Everton, Lukaku, he's a beast, man. Potential captaincy candidate there. Now the next game, this is the only game that has me worried, is United versus Southampton. And yes, United are at home, but they have been struggling against some bottom 10 or lower table teams. So it's going to be kind of a test coming off of international break. I mean, Rooney scored, Van Persie got a hat trick, and you got Jay, the midfielder, the young guy who had 2 excellent goals, an excellent volley. So, they do have a lot of confidence coming in here, but this is a number 4 team. Southampton have 14 points. They're not to be taken lightly. They're not like Sunderland. They're not like West Brom. So it's going to be interesting to see, and that's why I say this one could go either way. Might even see the draw. Speaking of draws, you might see one at Stoke City and West Brom. But I think with Sessegnon, Afamalatino, or Alfatano, whatever the pronunciation is, I think those two are going to be a good combination to get some offense for them. Swansea and Sunderland, fairly straightforward. Swansea probably getting Hernandez back, hopefully, and that'll boost them. Sunderland getting a boost from maybe having Fletcher back this week too. So, who knows? Maybe it's Sunderland's time to kind of turn their fate and put a string of a couple wins together. But my sports wagering is going to be against that. And then you got West Ham at home against City. West Ham, for some reason, have always had City's number. They've always just been able to just kind of keep them back, hold them down, and keep the score tight. So this could be a good game. You might see a draw. City are the highest scoring, I believe, out of the whole table, and yet they're only in the 5th. So it's one thing to consider too moving forward. In terms of differential, not a lot of people have City because of their rotation risk. Tottenham and Villa. Villa probably going to have Benteke back, which are going to be a good bonus. Tottenham haven't really been producing offensively. With all their talent, they're not scoring. So this one could be an interesting game too. Perhaps a 1-1 draw. But only time will tell. And then Crystal Palace and Fulham. This is kind of just like dogs of the table battle match. So could go either way, and I'm not really going to make a prediction on that just because it is too close to call. So on that, getting into some captain picks, I think that you will have to go with either one of the two from Liverpool, with either Sturridge or Suarez if you have them. Myself, personally, I'm going with Giroud on Arsenal. I did have Özil, however, that was basically when he scored. Then when he limped off, I kind of switched that. I wouldn't be too surprised if he is actually rested this week for a little bit, or he only gets, like 60 to 70 minutes, just as a precaution. And then Lukaku, obviously against Hull, they're going to be tough defensively, but if someone's going to break them, it's going to be that big guy. And then, for United at home, I mean, if you got RVP and you stuck with them this long, you just have to captain them. There's no ways around it. Rooney, I was considering it, but, Southampton are a good team, and I feel that I'll have a better option with Norwich and Giroud. And then I guess if you're debating anyone else, maybe the return of Benteke, just because he's at home, it's his first game back. Not a lot of people have him, and it'll just be kind of like a blowout surprise. So again, now don't forget, check out my post to see who's on my team, why I got them, and moving forward, and just going through kind of the cheap bandwagons a little bit more in detail. Players where you can have like a 25.8 valued midfield and have like 141 points. So it is pretty crazy. So have a check, have a little quick read over there if you can. I'd appreciate it. And as always, I wish you good luck, and I will see you next game week.